Hi everyone, welcome back to Aspergers from the Inside. You're here with Paul. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. Today's topic is situational mutism, which is essentially the phenomenon that people like me, for example, who can talk and do talk and are often quite confident and comfortable talking, may, in some situations, not be able to talk. This is surprisingly common in the autistic community, and one of the reasons I say surprising is because even if you see a person or meet a person, it's not obvious necessarily if they sometimes experience this phenomenon. I remember being at an autism conference in Sydney a couple of years back. And one of the best things about autism conferences is the autistic social space, where you get to meet all the other autistic delegates who have come in to go to the conference. I was chatting with this young man there, and I noticed that around his neck he had these little cards with things like, "Hi, my name is," "I may not talk," and really other very basic phrases. And I was really curious. I was fairly new to the whole autism space at that time, and so I asked him quite directly, "How do you use them? How do you, are they useful for you? Just tell me, what's the deal with the cards," basically. And just with a really genuine curiosity. And he told me, yes, he does use them sometimes, more often at places like autism conferences where people are more likely to understand. And it brought to mind that just because he was speaking to me really clearly, really articulately, in a very relaxed way, does not mean that he always has the ability to speak like that. One of the things that I love most about the autistic community is that by meeting lots of other people and seeing how they interact with the world and their own sort of idiosyncrasies, we can learn a lot about ourselves as well. So since then, I've been noticing similar, yet different, but similar behavior for myself. And I recognize that there are some times when speaking is really difficult. Difficult to the point where now that I've started to embrace my autistic identity a lot more, I start giving myself permission to not talk in those situations. And I start having strategies where the people around me have a better idea of what to expect, so that it's actually socially appropriate for me not to talk in those situations. So some ways that I've found to describe this to others, I call it zombie mode, where I'm just completely fried. I can't think. It's the end of a long week or something. My brain is literally offline, and I might be walking and talking, but I'm not really thinking anything in particular. So attempting to have a conversation with me in that mode, I may or may not be able to hear you or listen to you. It's a little bit like trying to speak to someone in the morning before their coffee, when you know that it's a really bad idea to speak to this particular person in the morning before they've had their coffee. Right? It's just that my brain isn't online, and the effort involved in trying to form the words is just, it's like I'm in bed and I need to get out of bed and I just want to stay there. That's an interesting analogy. That's my personal experience of sometimes when some situations where actually speaking is very much more difficult than others. Another common way that this expresses itself in the autistic community is due to anxiety, or very often social anxiety. And when a person has very strong anxiety, it can be hard to get the words out. And this is actually a really common human phenomenon, right? Like there've been TV shows made about this, where the teenager is too scared and loses their words and can't speak to the person that they're trying to ask out, right? Like this is a really common thing that everyone experiences to some degree. What I've also noticed is that, especially through my coaching work, I do online coaching as a life coach in emotional intelligence. Very often, the people that I speak to will tell me something like, I'm not normally very talkative, or I don't normally talk to people, or talking to strangers, sometimes I can't talk to strangers at all. And then they tell me something very interesting. They say, but it's different talking to you. Something about knowing I'm autistic, something about maybe knowing me a little bit from my videos, or something, there's something that reduces that anxiety and reduces the fear that someone else won't understand what you have to say. So I know, putting this back to my personal experience of when I'm really tired, one of the things I worry about the most is, what if I don't say the right thing? What if I try and form a word, or I try and express something and I say it in a way that's not quite right, or that offends somebody, or that gives someone the wrong impression, and then once I create a misunderstanding, then trying to rectify that misunderstanding takes a lot more energy and is a lot more stressful. So that in itself can cause a lot of anxiety. I don't want to speak because what if I accidentally say something wrong, or what if they misinterpret what I'm saying? Talking to someone who you know is going to understand, who isn't going to judge you, can make a huge difference. But unfortunately, very often strangers, someone who you've never met and you don't know if they can be trusted or if they're going to understand what you have to say, can cause a huge amount of anxiety. So the term for this is situational mutism. If this is something that you can relate to, share your experience in the comments, because this is a phenomenon that is surprisingly common but not very often talked about. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.